Hello, everybody. Welcome to Watches with Dennis, and we are back with the Saturday live stream. More fun topic, hopefully fun topic for people. We're going to do pet peeves. This time, though, an emphasis on actual pet peeves of things that just annoy me or those who are watching live get annoyed by. I'll try, of course, to interact with the chat as I often do. And the reason for this is just some feedback on the last video, pre-recorded video that I did. I did actually have one this week, and I'll put a link in the live chat. But I did a video on 5 common pet peeves that broadly exist in the hobby, but I actually don't subscribe to. I'm okay with those pet peeves. But of course, that led a few people to go, well, but can't you do one about the ones you actually don't like? So I think it was attempting to bait me into going into some rants. So here you go. I figured it might be a good live stream topic. But remember, it's just for fun. And all pet peeves are, of course, subjective. So I know some people don't like videos that go more negative, but this one's going to because that's just the nature of pet peeves. On the wrist today, well, I'm going to pop it off the wrist so it's a little easier. See, I haven't worn this one in a while, but Mr. Jones watch. This is the Ricochet Jump Hour pinball themed watch with the back box. You can kind of see you can't really see. I was gonna say you can kind of see that says 10 a.m. But you can't, not with all the studio lights that I have set up here. So anyway, other than that video on the pet peeves, I haven't really had anything recent. Been pretty busy working, so that is not particularly surprising. But anyway, it is a nice day, and I figured let's go ahead and have some fun going over things that I do not like, and of course, share your pet peeves. Those of you watching in the chat and in the comments, if you're watching the recorded version, I'll go back and read those. I always do. So if you want to just talk about some of those, just watch pet peeves that they grind your gears, but grind your gears if we want to go into some Family Guy references, so to speak. So let me go ahead and get caught up with the chat first, and then we will jump right into the first one that I have for us. Arthur, hello. Glad you were able to make it to the live stream. Good morning. Kevin, welcome to the live stream. Good to see you. David, thank you for being a 99-cent club member. Link to being a 99-cent club member is in the video description. It does cost a whole 99 cents a month, though, so be aware. Money is required. There's also a link to the Discord where we talk about watches. You don't have to be a member or subscriber or anything to participate in the Discord. Koji, also a 99-cent club member, says, Watches with Dennis special, 43-millimeter case with 20-millimeter movement, purple dial with cut-off numerals, and cathedral hands. Look, you've hit on a few things, including stuff that I'm not going to get to. Though, David, all right, the cutoff numbers, that might be appearing, but not first. That's not going to be the first thing we go into. And Duncan, welcome, and thank you for being a club member as well. Okay. So I was going to do little banners and everything, but I set that up too late. And I don't think anyone, because I think you'll be able to verbally follow along with me quite easily. So let's go ahead and start with pet peeve number 1. I have 5, just like I had those 5 that I'm cool with. I went ahead and I've chosen 5 that I am not cool with, that I have a problem with. And these are not all my pet peeves, but I figured these would be the most interesting ones. These are, of course, some of the more famous ones. At least I'd say half of them are pretty well known by those who regularly watch the channel. But all right, cathedral hands. I got to do the thumbnail first. I can't string you guys along with that. We're going to do the thumbnail one first. So it's really the hour hand specifically. And I think broadly speaking in this hobby, we all have handsets that we do not like. They bug us for whatever reason. There's always a pet peeve. I'd say the most famous one is snowflake hands. Tudor's snowflake hands. There are a lot of people that like pretty much everything about a Tudor watch, but they just cannot get into snowflake hands. And so that rules out Black Bays and that rules out Pelagos. Most of the other lines I think are okay, but those are the bulk of the lines that people want to buy. So, snowflake hands. And I'm cool with snowflake hands. I don't like them, but I don't dislike them. Mercedes hand. And I could kind of see the Mercedes hand one being an issue because the cathedral hand is like a deformed. I might be able to zoom us in a bit more, but the cathedral hand is already like a deformed Mercedes hand. And so to me, it's how bulbous it is. I don't know. For whenever I see it, it reminds me of like a tulip bulb or something. And while I don't have anything against tulips as flowers, I don't like it. I do not like it on a watch. And this is a watch I like in like every other way. I like the coin-edged bezel. I like how they do the pointer date. I like the font they use for the Arabic numerals. Pretty much everything about this Oris I like. But I never could get into this look with this bulbous hour marker, hour hand. And I think because the cathedral handset is known from pocket watches, it just takes everything. And I like some classic design, guys, but it takes basically uh, everything that you might otherwise have, like this watch, and you stick it on and it immediately makes it fuddy duddy. Like this watch looks modern in so many ways. I should use the word right, say modern in so many ways, from the Arabic numeral choice to it's a very clean design overall, but you then all of a sudden you have this old time hour marker. And it's the same thing with a Seiko Alpinist. Like some people like the Seiko line of field watches, the Alpinist line. Same problem for me. It's like I would never, ever, ever entertain buying one because I cannot get behind cathedral hands. So it's just one of those things. So for me, the number one item that I wanted to point out was my dislike of cathedral hands. They are just a pet peeve and of mine. I'm trying to think if I have any other watch handset pet peeves where I won't, to the level where I wouldn't buy the watch because of the hands. There might be somewhere like the configuration would keep me away, but is there any other handset where I'm just like, absolutely not a mainstream one? Like there are instances where I've seen like, what is it? The Vacheron Patrimonies. I think they use pencil hands on those. I don't like how it looks. So I would never buy that watch with that handset. But there are other times where like pencil hands, I think look fine. So, but cathedral hands, never. There's not a single watch I can think of that has a cathedral handset that I would buy. The cathedral handset immediately disqualifies it. So that's mine. That's my number one. But let me go ahead and jump to some other folks. Dios Bananos, hope I said that right. Welcome to live stream, by the way. Long lugs on dress watches, especially in more traditional styles. Longines are a major offender. I've never owned a Longines. That's interesting. Nomos Glashütte has been called out a lot for that, though. So that's the one that jumps to my mind, where their new watch doesn't have that, but most of their catalog has very long lugs. That's not a pet peeve of mine, but I know it is a pet peeve of some others. Joe, welcome to live stream, and thank you for being a club member. Otis, new model, fixed it for you. Thank you, Joe, for your contribution. Oh, Koji even brought up the Nomos example. But yes, definitely something that they are renowned for as a brand. I didn't know that about Longines, but I haven't handled a whole lot of Longines watches. Underachieving watch collector, thank you for being a club member, by the way. Skeleton hands on a dive watch. Looking at you, Omega. See, I'm okay with that one. I'm okay, but you are not the only one I have seen who has a problem with not skeleton watches, but skeleton handsets, at least in certain situations. So in your case, you mentioned dive watch. I'll say on my video that I linked earlier where I had pet peeves that I recorded this week that aren't my pet peeves, but are broadly pet peeves. I think it was Trap Vision, who has a YouTube channel. He had commented poor loom on dive watches. So since you brought up dive watches underachieving, I thought I would mention that's another one I've seen people bring up is bad loom, at least in a dive watch scenario, which I understand. Like it compromises the objective tool purpose as to why the watch exists. Let's see. Yeah, and Dio said Nomos too. I own 0 Nomos because of the crazy lugs. Yes, a lot of people are in that boat. And let's see. Arthur says, I can't stand watches with hands that look too similar. Those wherein you can't tell between the hour and minutes hand at a glance. There was a watch, I think I did it on the live stream last week, where that was my complaint. The hour and minute hands were almost the same size and the shapes were identical. But again, yes, I lean. That one might be one of mine. It's not on today's list, but that one might be one of mine, Arthur. I do have a problem when you can't very quickly tell which one's the hour and which one's the minute. And length is usually the issue. But of course, if you do very different shapes, you can avoid that sort of problem. Like a minute hand being like this, for example. Let me put it back on here. Like if you had, like these are different enough, but like if you were to do like lollipop second hands, for example, I like a lot because generally you don't see the lollipop configuration on the other handsets. So it's a good way to make that distinct. And a lot of times the second hand is going to be the same length as the minute hand. So, or near on the same length. So one of those particular instances. All right. Duncan says, I hate Mercedes and Snowflake hour hands, quite limiting, but cathedral hands are, I think you meant aren't that bad. Maybe you meant are that bad and you hate all handsets. Yeah, no, I don't. Again, Mercedes hand, I don't love the Mercedes hand. It's I find it more visually appealing than the Snowflake, but the Snowflake in and of itself, I'm okay with. I used to own a Snowflake hand watch and I didn't sell it because of the handset. But Joe Bolt, this is a big one. This one I meant to put in my list of pet peeves that don't bother me. I'm totally fine with the 4:30 date window. In fact, I could probably do a video trying to defend the 4:30 date window because I find it more interesting than many other options. But definitely one that a lot of people hate, absolutely despise. Tap 1999, welcome to the live stream. Glad you could be here. And Duncan says, too much text on the dial. Less is better, and I prefer nothing but the brand name. I know some people, Duncan, that are with you on that. I know others that are like, they want more text, like, or they get, I think someone commented on my last video that they are really bothered by dials where there's no text towards the 6, only text up at the top half of the dial. That was a first for me. But again, we all have our boats that we tend to fall under. Koji says fleur-de-lis hands only work on pocket watches as well. Methinks. I'm trying to think of a time. I don't know when I've seen a fleur-de-lis hand on a wristwatch, though. If it's what I'm thinking of. I know the fleur-de-lis from the French symbol, so I'm trying to think if I've seen that on watches. And I don't really look at pocket watches, so I can't identify a time when I've noticed it. Tap says Oris 10-year movement warranty is decent. Yes, yes, it is. Though the big crowns that have the 10-year warranty, I don't think use the cathedral handset either. So very convenient. Pre-2, welcome to live stream. California dial. That is a pet peeve. It's not on today's list. I don't like California dial. And Koji says Chopek uses that particular handset. Okay. Good to know. All right, I'll go ahead and jump. Thank you, chat. Wow, you guys, I should have known pet peeves are gonna feed very well into people. All right, gotta do my number 2. Again, all subjective. Grind my gears one. This is one that that we saw David mention way back at the start of this video, because how could I not? Cropped hour markers. Now, it's a little more nuanced than just saying cropped hour markers. It's more specific. It's cropped hour markers if they are Arabic or Roman. So like if you have indices, stick indices or whatever, you just got batons or whatever, I don't mind if those are different sizes or cropped or whatnot, because they're not actually a number. But when I see a number, it just, it bugs me so much. And so I've got this Breitling Premier B09 chronograph. I think a lot of you know this watch. It came out of 3 years ago, pistachio dialed one. And I've seen this in person. This is a nice watch. When this was announced, I thought baby puke and pea green soup. And then I saw it in, less rendery and more in light conditions. And I thought, actually, it's a really attractive watch. These are markers, and hands are very silver. It plays with the light very well. And it's a well-balanced color scheme. I can't own it, guys. I can't. I checked it out in person. The pet peeve is too strong. My gears are ground too much into dust. I cannot allow these subdials to crop out the numbers. I know it's been something that was done all the way back in the pocket watch era, but every time I see it, all I visually see in front of me is laziness. Hey, what are we going to do to accommodate these things? It's usually subdials. Not much else is going to crop out a numeral. So it's usually, we see it mostly on chronographs. Not always. We see it on some other scenarios as well. And it's like, what are we going to do? We had a 10 here, guys. We have an 8. Are we going to change the size of the markers? Are we going to turn them into batons? Why don't we just carve chunks out of them? Just chop them up like a chainsaw. And that's all I ever see when I look at it. And I just look at what otherwise is like this well-executed, balanced, thought-out dial. And then you have this jarring lot. Like, look at this 2 over here. If you didn't know the placement, you wouldn't know this is a 2. This looks like someone was trying to draw a circle and they screwed up. It doesn't, like, the 4 is like the only one that's pretty much tolerable. It's just, I just can't do it. This is one of my biggest pet peeves. And there's so many chronographs that I've had to throw out because of it. And again, not just chronographs. Half of the Saxonias that Alangazona makes crop out with the small seconds part of the 6. Can't do it. I can't. And so there are other Saxonias that I've looked at, but maybe they don't have the small seconds, or they do a different configuration. But there's some that I like the font. I like the numerals that they're doing for the hour markers. But then that cropping happens, and I have to toss the whole watch from consideration. It's a heavy burden, guys. It's a heavy burden. And it happens on so many things. Now, for me, it's extra weird, like cropping into the like the minute track, or like I have a Zenith Chronomaster Original, that 430 date window takes a chunk out of like the chapter ring area. That stuff doesn't bother me. I don't mind losing the minutes. I don't mind going into the tachyometer. I don't mind going into the seconds or minute track. It's just hour markers. The new Nomos that they came out with, the world timer, where they actually print the 10 and the 8 into the subdial. I think some people might find that strange. And I do think it was a weird solution, but it is a solution. And it actually removes the pet peeve. So if I actually liked the way that Nomos looked more, and it's a clean looking watch, but it also doesn't have those super long lug to lugs that we've been talking about earlier. That's an example of, I just don't like it visually enough to want to buy that watch. However, it not because of any pet peeve. And a watch like this, which I like so much, I can't own it. I know it would bug me. It bugs me too much to buy it, which is too bad because it is a really nice looking watch. So anyway, that's one for me. David going fleur de lis. If I said it, I don't know if I said it right or not. I just say words. People will correct me when I'm wrong. Dios saying stepped lugs as a pet peeve, kind of found on Oris Divers and the Glashütte Original Panamatic lunar watches. I wanted a Geo Pano until I caught a side view on my wrist and was totally put off. I actually had a Panamatic lunar. I have a review video of it. I didn't own it very long. But I liked how it wore pretty much. It's just I was getting another asymmetrical watch. I traded it against it actually, and I didn't need to. So that's why I let that one go. MCart. Welcome to the live stream, and thank you for being a 99-cent club member. I recently bought a Vacheron Constantin Malt 42015 big date in white gold. I do not know if it qualifies to be dress watch with the big date complication. Would depend who you ask. If you're asking me, I would say I count it. I think the malts are all dress watches because to me, they are not sport watches. So I only have two basic buckets, sports watch and then dress watch. And then there's sub tiers like sports watch have everyday sports watches like the Date Just. Some people might count that a dress watch. I count it as a sports watch versus a professional, like it has a specific tool purpose like the Submariner as a dive watch. Dive watch is a professional version of a sports watch, much like you got tiers within tiers within tiers like nesting dolls. So you think of, let's take a Flieger, for example. So it's a sports watch, but it's a field watch, but it's designed for pilots. So the pilot watch is a sub-tier of the field watch, which is a sub-tier of the sports watch. That's how I see it. But anyway, every malt I have ever seen is a dress watch as far as I am concerned. And I really like the malts. There was one in particular I've been really watching for because I've never owned a Vacheron. And the malts, the one I liked was a white gold with the slate dial, but it's just a small seconds. Doesn't have a date complication at all. But anyway, I mean, would we say that the Langen is Langen 1 or the Panamatic Lunar we mentioned before? Are those sports watches or not? And for me, the Pano was an interesting one. Like I talked about dress watches before. Mine came on a bracelet. So normally bracelets are one of the things I use as a quick disqualifier for dress watch. But of course, we could swap a strap or bracelet at will. So, I think a lot of people would say the Panamatic Lunar, which has a big date, that's why I mention it, would be a dress watch. I don't know anyone who says the Longa 1 is anything but a dress watch. So, and the thing about the Longa 1 that's so famous is the big dates on all of them. So I think it is, I would count it as one. But everyone's mileage may vary. We have our own ways of interpreting these things. Tap says crop numerals are decent compared to its absence. More negative space. I'll put the watch back up so people could see it. I mean, like if we got rid of these and didn't have anything at all, it would be a pretty ugly watch, I think. However, what if there were batons, just like regular stick indices, and you had just different sizes possibly, or you just used a shorter set? But again, I'm okay with different sized markings. The cropping itself, to me, it looks like a cookie cutter came into the dough and just sliced away stuff. I can't see anything but laziness when I see it. I know that I don't mean to say that they were lazy making the watch. That's just my pet peeve, visceral reaction when I see it actually happen. David says that Breitling is amazing. Take that back. No, I will not take it back. This is a pet peeve episode, and this one is the pettiest peeve of all. This one, I probably should say this for number 5 because number 5 would have amazed you, but we've done it here at number 2 because so many people know I don't like this. So I had to bring it up. Joe Bolt says crop numerals is my second biggest pet peeve. See, I'm not alone, David. There are lots of people that cannot stand the Breitling Premier lineup because of this choice. Koji says that cropped 2 does look pretty awful. Yeah, no, the 2 is the worst of the lot. I would say the 2 is the worst. The 10 is probably, well, I'd say the 4 is the best, followed by the 10 and the 8's in between. No, the 2, no, I don't know. It's just, if you just look at it as a shape, it's almost offensive, quite frankly. Koji says, I've gotten used to the cropped 6 on dress watches that have a small seconds. I have not. It actually annoys me more because here, at least, we're accommodating the function of the chronograph. And like what, and the white space item that got brought up by Tap, for example, to me, is you're not going to have too much negative space with the small seconds down at the 6. Just get rid of the 6. You don't even need a marker. Just get rid of it. Like, that's hardly any real estate on the watch. So just ditch it. That's my stance. Trap says, what's good, Dennis? I actually mentioned you earlier regarding your comment on dive watches as a pet peeve when they don't have good loom. We're having fun today and actually going into things I don't like as pet peeves versus my pre-recorded video of pet peeves that y'all have that I'm like, guys, you're making a big deal out of nothing. Of course, all pet peeves are really big deals out of nothing. That is why they are pet peeves. Duncan says, I don't mind a little cropping, but I have to agree that too looks terrible. I'm costing Breitling sales by the minute. I hope no one from the brand watches because they're going to downvote and then probably leave a very mean comment. Oscar says, good morning. Good morning to you. Hope things are going well for you. Arthur says, misaligned chronograph hand at 12 o'clock when you press reset. Selling my broom metric because of this. That I agree you could count it as a pet peeve, but I almost feel like we'd have to count that as an error. Like misaligned Seiko dials, like when the bezels don't line up, isn't that more of an error than again? It is a pet peeve. If it bugs you, it counts as a pet peeve. So I don't want to diminish the peeviness of your peeve. But that seems like I had a chronograph. I had a Hamilton where you would, I sent it in twice and did finally get it fixed. But when you would reset it, it quit resetting properly, and the minute track was the one on mine. It always would reset 7. I guess it was the second track. It would reset 7 seconds in. No, it was a minute track. It was a minute and an hour bar. It was anyway. It's a story worth exploring another day, perhaps. But I've complained about that Hamilton plenty of times. All right. Arthur also notes quartz watches with second hand that doesn't hit the markers accurately. Nothing looks more cheap or tacky. Tissot. I should put Tissot between the two coughs. Yes, I know a lot of people have that pet peeve. I'm sympathetic in the sense that when it's an inexpensive watch, I guess I don't know what to expect with lining up the dial versus lining up the movement underneath. I don't know. You'd think they could get the tolerances better, quite frankly, since you know exactly how much is going to move every tick. But anyway, yeah, it is one, not one of mine, but it's one I've definitely seen a lot of people have. DS says the JLC MUT Moon 36 millimeter I bought recently has no indice or marker at 6 to accommodate the moon phase, which sits slightly lower on the dial than it does on the 39 millimeter, but symmetry is maintained. See, that sounds perfectly fine. It is a perfectly good solution, guys. We can avoid the peeviness unless your pet peeve is not having a 6 o'clock marker, and then in which case we have fallen into your trap. Terrible fate we might have. Oscar says, I agree with Trap. Dive watches shall have the perfect loom, very bright, since if you are diving, you won't have light available to charge the loom. It's a perfectly reasonable stance. I own so few dive watches just in my collecting history. I never really thought much about it. I guess all of mine have had decent loom. One of my worst loom watches, not my worst, but one of my worst was a Vostok. And it did have the dive bezel, but it was a Komodersky, and those aren't really designed to be true dive watches. The loom was pretty pitiful. My worst loom ever was my Pro Pilot X from Oris, but I knew that going in. The loom was merely decorative. They had dyed it black, so it was still loom, like Luminova, but because they had mixed something in to make it black to be on top to fill in the hands, it technically did glow, barely, but it did. But technically it was loom. So if we're counting it, and we would, it was pretty crap loom. Tap says, my pet peeve is helium escape crown on the Omega Seamaster. I like this. I like the helium escape valve. I don't love it, but I grew to like it. But no, that kills that entire dive watch option for a ton of people. Totally understand. Joe says, text on my dial on a case-by-case basis. Too many lines. That's a big one a lot of people have. Different font style. I have criticized that before. That might be we might do another one of these in the future, and I'll give some examples there. Weird branding or bragging, excuse me. Weird bragging, like 5 days. And aromatic, like the sin. Saying automatic. Aromatic would be funny. It would be a very smelly watch. Koji says weird bragging. No, it's a fair one. Like 3 days power, or 5 or 2 weeks. I kind of get it. But there's weird bragging and there's lame bragging, because saying automatic on the dial of the watch, we don't need, you own the watch. Me walking down the street doesn't need to know, oh, you got an automatic? Wow, you sprung for the non-hand wind version? It's like, what is it, like stick versus automatic in a car? Like, they don't put that on the side of the car. The owner knows. And the moment you handle the watch, So anyway, just one of those where that's a good one. I like that one a lot. Cart says, pet peeve for me would be the date window. Dates showing the current one along with yesterday and tomorrow. I better not show you my Parmigiani. You would hate it. I only have one watch like that, but some of the IWC Chrono Fliegers have them. For me, I do not see the point. The only one the one I own, I got because of the way it configures with the watch. It created an interesting visual aesthetic. Mechanically, there is no point. It doesn't help you in any way. Underachieving says non-hacking movements bug me. Patek must have really bothered you for a long, long time. Actually, there is a point on the if they do date discs where you don't print the number every single date, that's what the Parmigiani does. So you do need to be able to see at least one of the dates beside it. Otherwise, you would never be able visually to know what date it was. It would just be a bunch of dots. So there is a purpose. But it was a purpose of their own making, because there was no reason otherwise to have done the date window like that, except they widened it. I can show one sometime, but let me go ahead and jump to my third one. So thank you guys so far. All right, so I've covered my first pet peeve was the cathedral hand. My second pet peeve was the cropped hour markers if they are Arabic or Roman in nature. My third one, this is not one I've talked a lot about, but you know what? It is a pet peeve of mine, and I've definitely mentioned not caring for this. Tourbillons in wristwatches. There's no point. There's 0 point. This watch looks good. I would so much rather this be a moon phase. I don't care that the moon phase isn't a practical complication. At least theoretically, it does something. Like I can technically use it to know the state of the moon. The tourbillon in a wristwatch doesn't offer any meaningful accuracy improvement. I get it. It spins around and looks cool. I went and looked at the Carrera in person, and it's like the tourbillon's movement is cool. Like, it's a cool thing. But because it doesn't bring any functional value to a watch, I can't consider, and granted, they're super expensive. So this is a good pet peeve to have for me, but it's just like, it just kills every watch for me. I'm just like, I will not own a tourbillon. If I had the money, I wouldn't own a tourbillon. And when they hide the tourbillon, because some of the high-end brands will do a tourbillon and they'll hide it, that's even worse. I know some people are like, wow, look at how they're so confident in their branding and who they are as a company that they're not going to even show off the complication. But it's like, the complication is still worthless. Like, this is not a pocket watch. If the complication is worthless, why do we have it? I can't. It's my logic side of my brain cannot allow whatever aesthetic edge a tourbillon brings to the table loses to the logic side of the brain. And I just can't do it. So this is a well-balanced watch. It's a well-reviewed watch. There are a lot of watches that I like so much about them. And then the moment I see you just chucked in this tourbillon, just kills it for me. I cannot get into it as a complication. So that is the one that's coming to my mind, at least today. The one complication pet peeve I have is the tourbillon in a wristwatch. In a pocket watch, there is a logical purpose. And if you wanted to talk about a tourbillon in a pocket watch, I'm all ears, but I'm not interested in talking about pocket watches. So we're not really going to have much of a conversation there. Anyway, that is my pet peeve number 3 for today. Duncan says one of the worst pet peeves that he has is hands that are much too short. I think that one doesn't bug me. Okay, I've seen some. There is it a Monero? I think it might be a Monero, one of the Carl F. Bucherer watches that's a world timer. I actually liked almost everything about the world timer configuration, but the handset just looked way too short. But as a general rule, that's not something that immediately jumps out to me. I know some people that are very particular on that pet peeve. Like that minute hand better kiss those minute markers. That hour hand better come right up to that edge at the very least of the hour marker, or else it I think it's more of a balance issue for them than anything. Though obviously, if you have really stubby hands, and this can be a problem when you have a too big case and a too small dial, and you don't use any longer hands or anything, you could run into some time telling issues. But I think mostly it's probably balance. And I have plenty of other balance pet peeves, but that one's usually not the first thing I notice. That's an interesting one, so I'm glad you brought it up. Ken, welcome to live stream. I actually don't like the black canvas watches. I'm going to shrink that one back down here. Like the Nautilus and the Royal Oak, where they take a good model and put every type of complication on it and treat it as a brand new watch. Come up with new designs. Okay, so overcomplicated watches. That one might be a pet peeve of mine as well. Because the price bracket gets so high at that point, I don't honestly spend a lot of time looking at watches with a ton of complications. But it's like, let's just take the perpetual calendar though. Like, I've never. I do own a quartz. I have a quartz powered perpetual calendar, but mechanical ones. Like, is it too much hassle to set it? Like, is that enough of a pet peeve to stop me from buying one? I haven't been interested enough in the complication, I guess, to really care. So I guess no, it's not a pet peeve per se, but it reminds me of that. I have definitely seen some that are way too visually busy. When JLC, 4 or 5 years ago, had that for the quadrime or whatever they called it, the 4-level reverso. It was super cool, but like setting aside the $1.2 million price tag, it had way too much stuff on it to ever, like mechanically it was neat. Visually, it was too much, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Tap says, to be fair, Patek solved the Nautilus issue by launching the Cubitus. That's it for, and hey, they've solved the hacking issue. I know they've had hacking in other watches before then, but hey, for those of you that want hacking, there you go. The Cubitus has got the hack for you. Joel Bolt says, tourbillons just look cool. So I'm going to put it back up so people can enjoy it. Since wristwatches, especially luxury ones, are 99% useless beyond style, etc., I think they work. It's that simple for me. Obviously I object because it's a impractical complication. So my pet peeve stands. However, I won't say 99% useless beyond style. It depends on the luxury watch, but most of them are still completely useful for telling the time. So for me, a watch is like this watch, and I showed it at the start. I'm going to zoom up again so you can maybe get a better look. But so I've got my Mr. Jones watch, Ricochet. This is a watch that's really all about style because the way it's designed, that back box part of the pinball machine where the time is told, it's so sunken in. This watch is one of the worst ones for readability. Like this is one of my hardest watches to read. In low light, I can't tell. And even in bright light, it's hard to tell what, like right now, if I glance at it, it's hard to read the hour marker because that disc is so low and the aperture is so small. This is a watch that is all about style over substance. But most luxury watches still, saying aside Dead Girl in a Lawn Chair, Royal Oak choices, still at least do a good job of telling the time. No, they're not as accurate as your phone or a quartz watch even, but I won't say that they are useless beyond style. They still do their main purposes. I'm still hiding behind that. It's my line in the sand to not make them fall into full on just jewelry. So one line in the sand. And if some fall into just jewelry and that's what we were in for, sure, no problem. But I still want I won't call it my lizard brain, but my logic brain side says it has to do something that I want. Like I want to own a chronograph if timing something wasn't possible with it. Like I couldn't read what the time is on it. So this one, you can still do that, but the tourbillon part, I said this one and I didn't have it on the screen. So you can, it's got the markers and stuff to make it useful, right? But then there's this, and that's not useful. Doesn't serve any purpose. So just me. MCart says tourbillons was only meant for the pocket watches. I think because they were more stationary as they were mostly in pockets. You are correct. That is my understanding. So practicality there because of the issue where watches are constantly moving different, different planes of angle and stuff so that's why the tourbillon, again, you don't have to take my word for it or science's word for it even. Look at the plus or minus rating on watches without tourbillons. We are already there. We don't like the tourbillon watches aren't the most accurate watches. That's why you know it's useless. Like Rolex doesn't need a tourbillon to do +2, -2 seconds per day. Omega doesn't need a tourbillon to do metis. It's just not needed. It's just to look cool. And that's not enough for me. I want it to look cool and do something useful. But again, that's what pet peeves are, just almost irrational things. I'm trying to rationalize I'm gonna argue all my pet peeves are rational. I'm not expecting you to agree with them, but hopefully you can understand why I'm trying to put to words why they're pet peeves. Because I do think I can articulate the reason behind all of them. I don't have any today that are just going to be I just don't like it and I can't explain why. I haven't figured it out. I think I know myself well enough to know what the motivation is. Sometimes when you see something at first and it puts you off and you can't tell, that's an interesting mystery. That's a watch worth exploring. I'm not saying worth owning, but it's worth exploring. Underachieving says, I hate expensive watches with fat or modular movements, making them too thick. I hate watches being too thick, even if they're cheap. It's one of my biggest problems with the complication watches that Longines puts out, because I think they put out some of the best looking watches. And I still haven't been able to own one because all the ones I really like end up like 15 plus millimeters thick. Arthur has a pet peeve: clasps that are too long, particularly those that are longer than the watch head's lug to lug. Kills comfortability of bracelets for 6.5-inch wrists and smaller. Okay, interesting. You know what? I'm on the fence about like deployance, for example, because comfort definitely does need to be considered. Underachieving says a tourbillon would work well with the dead girl in a lawn chair if her hand was dangling down. Her hand was dangling down. So a perfect comparison. Okay. All right. Let's jump to my fourth pet peeve. Ken brought up, I'm sorry, I'm seeing all the people laughing at underachieving, winning today's joke of the day. Ken brought up Audemars Piguet and the Royal Oak and too many complications. Well, I'm going to bring up a different Royal Oak for a different purpose, not an overly complicated one, but what a great example of skeleton watches. I know I'm not alone on this one. Skeleton watches, I can't. There's something visceral about my annoyance with skeleton watches. And why do they bother me so much? Because almost all of them are very hard to read. Just very hard to read. I'd say the cleanest, as a brand, the cleanest skeleton watches I've seen overall has been Cartier. They're relatively time tellable. I don't think that's really the right word. They're time tellable. I still wouldn't own one, but they do a pretty good job. But as a jewelry brand, I would hope that, visual aesthetic would be something that they could land. This even it's got hour markers, guys. It has minute markers, but this is going to play into some of your other y'all's pet peeves that you all on the live stream have brought up. Like, look at how short this hour hand is. So there's a bit of a look that you have to, again, knowing from the hour marker placements, it's not really going to be that hard for you to say that this is 10:08, but it's like everything the hand colors get lost in the balance bridge, gold work. It's the same. It just looks like a visual mess. So this is actually for AP a pretty readable watch. See aforementioned reference Dead Girl Lawn Chair Alex collaboration watch as an example of a watch that is unreadable. But this doesn't look good to me. The case and everything, once we get to the dial, it loses me. And that's true for basically every skeleton watch. Do I like looking at movement architecture? Absolutely. Display case specs are so commonplace now. Just let me enjoy it from the back. I'm getting out the loop anyway, wanting to look at your blackened, mirror polished screws and your anglage, and whether you went with Cote de Genève or you did some sort of frosting approach, or any detailed carving that maybe you did on the balance cock. Like, that's all stuff for the back. When you start showing gears and jewels on the front of the watch, it just obfuscates. It looks asymmetrical without pattern because it's not patterned for design. This structure that we are looking at is mechanically functional, and I love mechanic functionality, but that's what makes the watch move. Let's put that on the back. The front needs to be oriented towards telling the time first and foremost. So, as Tap noted, legible. That is my problem with skeletonized watches, and they are a big pet peeve. I don't even like open hearts, quite frankly, but at least those you can tell the time. I just don't like the way those look with that chunk taken out. I put that one on a future one, so I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole too much. But skeletonized watches, way too illegible as just a general rule. And what you give up all that legibility. And I think what you see instead is a visual smorgasbord that doesn't follow patterns. It's not like grammar of design. It's not golden ratio. It's just a mess of gears. And I don't like it. I don't like it one bit. So definitely a pet peeve of mine. MCart says skeletonized watches are also not popular due to low visibility and can be a pet peeve. Never had one, nor would I buy one. Wonder if you were typing that before I loaded this one up. But yes, it is a huge one of mine. It might be the biggest one of today. I don't know. It's not the one I'm really the most passionate about because I know a lot of people don't like skeletonized watches. But some people, again, there are some that are better done than others. And sort of what Underachieving has noted, I'm a sucker for a beautiful dial, and skeleton dials ain't it. Oh, okay. I thought maybe you were going to say some skeletons are beautiful. No, you want an attractive dial. I do too. That's where the jewelry part comes into play. I want the dial. It needs to be legible to me, but I do want it to look good, not just functional. I might want, when I want just a functional watch, I'll put on my G-Shock. I have that for a reason. There's a time and a place for a lot of different watches. There's not a time and a place for a skeleton watch in pretty much any scenario that I can come up with. But I think that was pretty uncontroversial. I know a lot of people would agree with me on that. Now, I think it was Koji at the start, or someone made a joke about like the combined like ugly watch that plays into Dennis's every single pet peeve that he doesn't like. Yes, it was. Here it is. I've scrolled back, guys. The watches with Dennis special: 43 millimeter case, 20 millimeter movement, purple dial with cutoff numerals and cathedral hands. Okay. Purple dials are not on the list of pet peeve today, but I'm using one to give you an example. We've talked about legibility, right? I'm sorry, Moser. You're like the worst one about doing this, and why I only like half your catalog. Watches without markers. Like, there aren't any. What time is it? Is this 10:10 or 10:15? You don't know. Nobody knows. This is so silly. This is like the tourbillon bothers me less than this because at least it moves around and looks cool. This watch would still look is just as good as it does if it had hour markers. I don't even need minute markers, guys. I'm merciful. I'm a merciful YouTube person. I'll let you just put on the hour markers. But this, absolutely not. I don't like the museum watch. I don't like this is an Endeavor center seconds, if you're curious what it is for Moser. But like they do this in the Pioneer line. Moser loves to do this where they're just like, we're just going to have hands. Why have hands at all? I don't think we need hands. Just let it be this purple foily thing and it'll match the strap and the case will be shiny and you'll walk around and I don't know, put the time on the back. Don't put the time at all. Just have to be a bracelet. It's practically just a bracelet already. It's too bad too, because while I'm not a huge fan of purple, this watch, the way they've done it with the color, it looks good. I love almost every colorway Moser does. Don't love all of them. Mega cool, I do not like, but almost everything else I do. The handset, I like their handset that they've done here. I like the case shape. This is a good looking watch, ruined by the lack of legibility because they've lost the plot. They're the worst about it, I think. But there are a number of other brands that have done so. Sort of like how Underachieving has noted that Moser looks like a Movado. Exactly. Look, it's not the 90s anymore. The museum watch is not hip and cool. And if you still like it, great. But it's not legible. Anything like this that's not legible, it's too much like a bracelet. I'm sorry. I need functionality. And this, I cannot at a glance easily tell the time. I would rather have a one-handed watch with markers than this. That is fun and playful and somewhat cavalier about how you tell the time. This, I'm pet peeving here, so I'm gonna rant a little bit. Again, this is for fun, but this is almost insulting to time because it's so disrespectful to the ability for you to easily be able to tell it for no purpose. You can have simple mirror polished white gold markers, 12 of them, and you'd have solved that problem. But no, you couldn't do it. That's where Moser has a sense of humor, and some of it works for me, and some of it I just think is stupid. And this is one of those. And it's too bad because this is so close to like I would actually wear this. Like, if you offered me this watch in purple with the markers, I'd wear it. And I'm someone who doesn't like purple watches, but I'd wear this one. But only if you start adding some hour markers in. I mean, if we were to, I'm on their site. You'll see this riddled in. I mean, they granted prior pet peeve. They take so many of these pioneers, for example, and then look at how much worse the tourbillon looks on the watch than without the tourbillon. But anyway, right, gain here, neither here nor there. But you see, just on some examples like this versus this or this, like the markers are clean and simple. The watch is beautiful. Why ruin it by making it not able to tell the time? I don't understand, but they do it all, all over the place. On these things. Some of them in the other colorways are when you click on them, but you see like all these endeavors, and you can't tell the time on them, and it's so unfortunate. Such a pity, guys. Such a pity. Anyway, as Koji said, rant incoming. Yes, rant has now outgoing. I've said my piece. I've made my judgment on it. Duncan says, good one. Lack of markers mean the watch can't even be set accurately. And I already run into this without having the minute markers. But I've said I'll accept watches without minute markers. And I have a Pioneer. I have the funky blue one. Yeah, it's a bit of a pain to set the watch if it's like 10:02. I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know if I set it at 10:01, 10:02, or 10:03. It's somewhere in there, I think. And I gotta live with my mistakes. I made those decisions, but oh my gosh, guys, it just absolutely just frosts me. It's too bad. Again, I just won't buy it. It's a pet peeve. I'm not losing sleep over it. Koji says, having seen it in person, I must admit that the tourbillon in Vanta Black is very, very, very cool. Looks like it's floating in space. Okay, good to know. Again, when I was in Dallas a couple months ago, I went to the tag store and I looked at the tourbillons. I don't hate what it does. I like visually. It's cool visually. I just mentally can't accept that functionally it offers zero redeeming qualities. Doesn't make your watch any more accurate. And that's just one purpose, purportedly. But we're not talking a pocket watch. There's no meaningfulness to it. And that just frustrates me. I'll take a romantic complication like a moon phase, at least. And I don't really care. I have zero cares what phase the moon is in. But at least I could say this is what it does. So just one of those. Arthur says, Studio Underdog's insane markups on their chronographs with dirt cheap seagull movements inside. I really liked the Series 1 when the watermelon came out. I thought that was a really cool looking watch. But I heard too many people had too many issues with the movements, just not the brand specifically, but like the seagull movement and braking. And with my past history with the Hamilton chronograph I had with brakes, I'm very leery. I have one mechanical chronograph. It's my Zenith. And I'm not looking at any others. Chronographs are not a pet peeve of mine. I had a quartz chronograph for years and actually used it quite a bit. I used the function a lot. But mechanical chronographs, I just get real leery on the workmanship and whether they'll hold up or not, especially inexpensive ones. I'm too scared to buy them, quite frankly. Even if it's just a few $100, it's just, if it doesn't work, it would upset me. Even if the rest of the time telling, I'd need to get it fixed mentally. So anyway, it's just one of those things. So anyway, that is it for the live stream. You guys have endured my one. I only had one little rant, and then my 5 pet peeves that I covered. So what were they? If you want to recap, cathedral hands. Actually, I'll show them real quick. You guys, I can show them for you. So my first one was the cathedral hands. In particular, it's the hour marker, hour hand that they use on those. Cropped Arabic or Roman numerals when they are the hour markers. I don't care if it's the minute markers or anything on the chapter ring or the rehout. It's stuff like this. Just can't accept the cropping. Tourbillons in wristwatches. Don't mind them in pocket watches. And I think it's a cool looking complication, but the lack of what it does bothers me. Skeletonized dials, probably my least controversial pet peeve of them all. Lots of people don't like skeletonized dials. And lack of easy legibility because you decided you didn't need markers at all. I got to have at least hour markers, guys. At least hour markers. Mcart says, fake patina along with fake patinated markers are also a pet peeve. I do not know if I would buy a watch with fake patina? Do you mean so the faux tina, as some people like to call it. If it's well matched with the watch in a way where I don't feel like it's just trying to look old for fake oldness, but rather it's a color coordinated thing, I have grown to accept it. I initially was like you, MCART. I couldn't get behind Fotina. Omega, for example, with like the No Time to Die watch, I'm okay with it. I think it doesn't, whether or not you, and it depends on the person, whether you think it's trying to look old or not. To me, it's just that the beige matches the color scheme that they went with the watch. And so from that aesthetic, I am okay with brown loom, I guess is what I'm saying. But if it's just like, here, we're trying to make this look like a vintage 1950s chronograph. And so we've chosen brown loom because of that with this, like, stark white dial. I'm like, no, Fotina to make it just look aged, I'm not cool with. But broadly speaking, I've found too many watches I'm okay with that have the look to be able to call it my own pet peeve. But anyway, I will stop here and in this live stream. Again, if you're watching the recording, you can go ahead and leave a comment about your pet peeves. I'd like to go ahead and read those. Hope you enjoyed watching the video. Don't forget to give it a like. I guess it helps later. I mean, right now, I don't really care if it helps or not because I'm about to stop it. But that'll be it. I'll plan to be back next Saturday with another live stream. Don't know what topic yet, as usual. I decide those usually later in the week. And until next time, I hope you all have a really good weekend. Take care, everybody.